Hey, everybody, I'm here with another episode of Snap Decisions. I, of course, am your host with the most, your Snap DJ. It's getting a little dark, so I guess it's nighttime. I have with me a special guest tonight that I have been wanting to talk to for a long time, but he's a busy, busy man, and I can understand why with all the streams and everything else and the outside stuff. It's Interrobang. Interrobang, how are you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I have been, I've been, I've heard about you since podcast, a while back, and so yeah, and of course the Galactus thing. That was the biggest thing. As soon as I saw him talking about Galactus, I'm like, yes, this guy's awesome.
I get a lot of hate for that, so I'm glad you liked me for that.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, like I've heard the stories, and I'll be honest, I got a little of that too. Before I even started this on my regular account, I got a little bit of that because there are some people out there, and you don't need to mention names, who don't necessarily like the card. And look, I get it. I can understand why people hate it and stuff like that. But I'll ask you right off the bat. So for me, I love the card for two reasons. One, because I pulled him out of, he was the first, I don't remember even what they called it back then, when we were just getting regular caches and you were able to pull those, the big bads out of a cache. Right. He's the first one I ever got, but also I just love the character from the comics and stuff like that. I was just a fan since I was a little kid reading Fantastic Four. So what brought you to, I mean, I know you're a fan of the card as well, but what got you to enjoy the card? And it could be just the card and the way he plays, because I love the animation. I just love everything about the card.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people overlook or don't even think about really is that Galactus is really like the perfect bridge of like fun and competitive. And I think a lot of people look at him as just like annoying or cheesing wins or something like that. But and I guess back then, I forgot what he originally was. I guess he was 7 power or 8 power. I forgot what he was.
He a 7? Yeah, I think it was a 6/7.
But even then, right? Like, so Galactus comes down on 6 unless you wave him or you Electro or whatever. And the game of Marvel Snap is about winning, at least 2 lanes. So if you by turn, 4, if he's getting waved out, or by the end of the game, if you don't have at least 7 power or now 5 power in at least 3 of the lanes, I feel like there should be some kind of punishment for that, and that's what Galactus's role was for a long time. And a lot of people looked at that as like, cheesy wins, but really like if your game plan is to focus on just 2 locations and just throw one for your opponent, then Galactus came in and made sure that, you remember next time not to do that.
Yep.
And I think, his animation and everything, it's all flashy. And he really, I feel like he's really the only big bad that feels like a big bad. Thanos had for a long time didn't have an animation. And now he has one, and it's not, it's like you shuffle the stones in. High Evo, same thing. You see like little sparkles and stuff. Galactus is like the animation in Snap, right? Like whenever you look at the file size of Marvel Snap, Galactus is like just like a little chunk of that, right? Because his animation is so over the top. Yeah. And yeah, I think I think he is really what Marvel Snap wanted for when people were like, let me look at this flashy Marvel card game. And for a long time he wasn't obtainable. I don't know if you remember, but he could still pop out of like not District X, but X Mansion. He could like pop out of it. Yep. And that is actually the first time I ever saw Galactus, is he popped out of an X Mansion and went off for me before he was obtainable. And I was like, what the hell is this? And then he was also I didn't open him, but when tokens were first created, I don't know if you remember, they gave us like, if you had a certain amount of, I forgot what, but they gave you tokens for free. Yeah. And I hit the 6,000 token threshold. Yep. And then right on the same day that tokens were created and I got those tokens, he was in my token shop.
He popped up in your shop.
I was like, okay, here he is. And I just bought him. And then ever since I've been a Galactus guy.
Yeah, that was a funny time, because I remember that too. I wanted Thanos more than him at first, because I'm like, I don't know. I just thought it was a cool card. I'm like, yeah, you get Thanos. He's like the especially for how popular he's been in the MCU and everything like that. So I was looking for him, and he he was never in my shop for a while, and then I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have to wait till he cycles all the way through, because they had to cycle through a lot of cards back then until you'd get that back. But then I'm sitting there and I'm opening caches. And I'm like, I popped open a cache and Galactus comes out of the cache. I'm like, oh my God.
That's so amazing. For the longest time, I mean, since their inceptions, I never opened a Series 5 card out of the
Really?
out of the previous system.
I was shocked that I did. Like, I couldn't believe it. I opened it up. And then it's funny. The story's hilarious, because then I read the card and I'm like, why would I want to use this and blow up other locations? What good is this going to do? So I sat on the card and did nothing with it. Like, I don't think I ever even used it or tried to. And lo and behold, and then all of a sudden I start to see players using it with the Spider-Man lockdown and with everything else. I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. I'm like, I could have been using this the entire time. But yeah, no, 100%. You're absolutely right. I think what a lot of people get drawn to with him is, like you said, the animations. And really, when they talked about big bads, you're talking about the biggest bad out there. And I know that everybody thinks of Thanos, obviously, because of the MCU and everything, but Galactus has been around since the 60s.
Oh yeah.
And so he was the big bad. I mean, he's a planet eater. So yeah, I'm excited, man, because I know he's going to be in the new Fantastic Four film. We're not going to get a stupid cloud like we got in the Fox movie.
I didn't know what I was looking at.
Oh God, that was awful. That was awful.
Yeah. I think that's it, and I think a lot of people call for his demise, and now that he's 5 power, you don't see him a lot, but. He made a comeback for. I did make a really good Galactus deck a while back. I think maybe like two seasons ago, maybe 1 season ago. But it was all about like Ravonna getting the goblins over. Sometimes you could play Titania, and on 4 you could Titania and Green Goblin, and they both go over and they get clogged over there. But that was super fun, and I still, no matter what they do to him, if they make him 1 power, I'll still try to make him work.
Same here.
But also at the same time, I'm like, come on, like throw him a bone once in a while. Like, there's a couple of new stat lines floating around, right? Like there's 6/7, a lot of 6 costs are 7 power now. There's a lot of 6/9s now. Tribunal's a 6/9.
Yeah.
So it's like the biggest, like you said, the biggest, baddest bad of the MCU. Why is he 5 power? Is it just because people don't like when they can't, the phrase build their sandcastles has come up a lot, and it's like, should they, like, should we just like let people just build sandcastles all over the place without like there being some guy creeping around, like, I'm gonna do that, and I feel like that there's a lot of metas in the past like 3 seasons have been what they were because there was no Galactus to keep them in check.
Very true.
And a lot of people, don't see it that way or agree with that. But I think we would be in a big different world if he had a little more power.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that, look, and I know there's arguments both ways, because when it was at the height of the arguments, everybody was saying, well, but he's so easy to counter. I mean, right now it's laughable. You can counter him with a lizard, which is ridiculous.
Or Doombot.
Or Doom, right. You could throw a lizard or something stupid down in the lane, which to me, again, the cards, I like when the cards make sense somewhat to the lore, right? That's kind of why I'm pretty happy that they're changing Thanos a little bit, because Thanos decks never made sense with Thanos. Nobody ever played him. They were only playing for the stones. So I'm kind of hoping what they do with that is they change him, and make him stronger with the stones.
I'm a big fan of like cards with flavor and make sense with their abilities and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Who knows? Maybe we'll get, maybe when Fantastic Four comes out next year, they'll feel a little bad and they'll like, maybe by that time there'll be cards around that they'll figure like,
I don't know if you remember, if you were following me when it happened, but when that nerf happened, when they made him a 5, I went into like dark mode. Like,
Did you really?
My persona was like heartbroken and like I was just tweeting like broken heart emojis and stuff, and people were like sending me their condolences, and like it was really, really funny.
That's great, dude. I love it. I really hope that something. Oh, I have to tell you. So I got off a nice play with it yesterday. I made a deck with Blink, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I wanted to just try
all night yesterday.
Were you?
Yeah.
I wanted to try this because I thought, all right, if this works, it's going to be the best thing ever. And here I am. I'm playing last night around 11 o'clock at night, and I'm getting upset. And of course, I'm playing a couple times. It's basically an Annihilus shell, but I have only Galactus is the only 6. So he's the only 6 in the deck. So if Blink is going to blink something, it's going to be him. Mm-hmm. So I waited, and I had a lane with the other player had. I can't remember, but basically their lane was almost all negative. They were clogged in the lane. And I think, I used Spider Woman. So I had Spider Woman in that lane, which nailed all their cards. So basically they're all negative now from her. I blinked her out and used Galactus in that lane from the blink. I'm like, this is the best thing I have ever done. I'm like, it's never probably going to ever happen again in a game, but it was the best thing I've ever seen.
So for the whole hour and a half beginning of my stream last night, I did the same thing, right? I was like, okay, we're blinking Galactus all the way to infinite. And I just completely misunderstood her, right? For some reason, my brain interpreted it as brings out the highest cost card. So I just had a regular deck, right? I had a regular deck, but Galactus was the only 6. And I was like, okay, no matter what I play, he'll pop out. And that's just how it registered in my brain. So it was completely wrong. But I got it to work all 3 times that I had an opportunity to do it. So I blinked like a 3 cost, or I blinked like a 4 cost, and each time Galactus popped out. And I was like, guys, we're doing it. Like, my chat was going nuts. I was like, guys, we're doing it. But they were going nuts because they couldn't believe it kept working. And I was like, look, like, it's working perfectly. I got it. And then finally someone explained to me, like, no, like, it's crazy that he keeps popping out when you have so many other cards in your deck. And I pulled up the card and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, how did I keep getting this to go off?
Yeah, it's crazy. You must have had a hell of a luck run there.
Yeah.
Doing that. That's awesome, dude. It was the best thing ever. The person I was playing, I almost felt bad for them. And I was playing Conquest with it, and they just like dropped immediately. It was like the second game, it was just like, I'm gone. And I'm like,
one of my favorite combos is that Titania Green Goblin line.
Yes. And
I think that would probably work great with that Spider Woman. You gotta send me that deck because I want to tinker with that. I might be able
absolutely. Yeah. No doubt. But that was, I figured, okay, what card can you throw down there that's a 1 point less than him that's going to do negative damage to something else?
Right.
And I'm like, Spider Woman. So I'm like, all right, let's just go with that. And I was like, and then I'm thinking, I got a little carried away with it because then I threw Hazmat in there and I just had all this, but I'm like, nah, I don't need all that.
Yeah.
And I cut back and I'm just like, I'm just throwing it in an Annihilus. Because basically, if you don't get the combo, which you may not, it's not something you're going to see all the time. At least you have an alternate way to win.
Right.
So I'm like, but yeah, I'll definitely send it over. If you come up with something better, you got to let me know because I want to. Man, did I love that? I'm sitting there giggling, and my wife's like, "What the hell are you laughing at?" And I'm like, "But you won't understand. It's a Galactus thing." Oh man, I love it. So I got to ask you. So how long have you been playing Snap? Were you in since the beta?
I wasn't in the beta, but I did play. I've been playing since global launch.
Okay. That's around the same. I got in it around Miles when the Miles thing started. So probably maybe a little bit after, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's the second season. Maybe I'm not sure though.
Nice. What got you into it, man? Like when you first saw, like for me, I saw the ads, of course, which drew me in. But then I'm just a big Marvel fan overall, comics, movies. I've played other Marvel games, obviously. Ultimate Alliance, I was a huge fan of the Ultimate Alliance games and stuff. So what got you in? Did you come in from Marvel? Did you come in because you were a card gamer prior, or what got you into Snap?
So I'm a big card gamer. I'm like a lifelong Hearthstone player.
Nice.
That's the game I was in since beta, and I played. I never missed a daily quest, since beta. And then Marvel Snap came out, and I was trying to juggle the two. I was still playing Hearthstone. I was grinding. I hit Legend every season and did all my quests. But then Marvel Snap was the first game ever. And I'm a gamer too. I play regular, PlayStation, Nintendo games, stuff like that. But Marvel Snap was the first game ever to make me miss a Hearthstone daily quest since beta. Okay. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done with Hearthstone.
I'm done.
Quest. and I never logged in again. And now I'm just like a full-time Marvel Snap player.
That's great,
But
dude.
yeah, same. I'm a lifelong comic book fan and Marvel fan, and the characters were so easy to get play and know and feel connected to already. So one thing that really scared me at first was the 3 lanes, and I didn't think I would be able to like juggle that or wrap my head around that. And because I don't know if you remember, but Valve's Artifact, I got into the beta for that.
Okay.
And that was supposed to be the Hearthstone killer, and that didn't happen. But
Went nowhere.
yeah, but that also had 3 lanes, but it was almost like 3 boards, and you had to like swipe between them.
Yeah.
And I guess for some reason I was like, oh man, I couldn't really handle that. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle 3 lanes. But a buddy of mine was like, no, dude, you got to try it. You're gonna be good at it. And I tried it and I loved it. So that was the only thing that I was skeptical about, but then it wasn't as overwhelming as I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's what I was playing and I've talked about this before. I played this game that they had, oh my gosh, it had to be 9 years or so ago that they came out with. It was right around the time when Black Panther first came out. It was a game called Marvel Battle Lines. That was a card game too, but it was just very weird. They set it up almost like a tic-tac-toe board where you have spaces on there and then you play certain cards on there. And it was almost like, I don't even know what the hell to compare it to. It was the cards would attack each other and lower their scores and stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you, people think that this game is a money grab. No. They don't even understand what a money grab was. That thing, you'd open packs. And the only way you're getting good cards. So at that time, of course, Thanos was big because of the films and stuff like that. So everybody wanted Thanos. Only way you're getting Thanos is if you open the most rare pack that there is. And each one of those packs you open are $20.
Oh,
each
man.
one was $20 to open a pack of like 5 cards. And
Wow.
the odds of you getting it, and there I am the one day, I'll never forget it. I'm sitting outside of work and I'm like, all right. And I'm determined to get this card. And I'm going and I'm like, all right, pack 1, pack 2. I probably blew about $150 until I end up getting that card. I'm like, what did I just do?
I'm sure people blew that much and didn't get it.
Oh my god, dude! And then the game died. Like it wasn't 2 months later. All of a sudden, they advertised, oh, it's Black Panther movie's coming out. We're going to do a season. 2 days after that, they're like, we're closing the game down. Like, oh my god! I just threw all that money. It's like taking it, throw it in a waste can and burning it. It was essentially like so. That's kind of what I mean. I was always a gamer. I played some Hearthstone and stuff too. I was a big World of Warcraft guy, so I did a lot of the Blizzard stuff. Diablo, right. I was a fan of that and everything like that. And of course, coming from video games, I mean, I'm old. So back in, I was playing like in television and ColecoVision back in the day. And of course, Marvel. I was always being my age. I think it's wonderful to see what we've seen up on the big screen. I can't get over it because I grew up in the age of Chris Reeve, Superman, right. Batman from the 89's Batman and stuff. I never ever thought when I saw Thanos up on the big screen for the first time, I near died. I'm like, are they going to show Thanos on that when you see the throne and he smiles? I'm like, yes, it's Thanos.
Yeah, I had a moment like that, and it was such a weird moment to finally have that wave like hit me or wash over me. I remember seeing the first Iron Man movie.
Yep.
Being like, wow, that was amazing. Like,
yeah.
Finally a good comic book movie. Not that the other one, at the time the other ones were great too, but that one was like a movie, like a real movie this time.
Right.
And then I think the second movie that came out was The Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
But it was with Ed Norton.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where they're fighting and the Hulk gets knocked over here, Abomination gets knocked over here, but then they both get up and they're on the street, and then they start walking towards each other.
Yes,
they start running towards each other.
The big run in the middle,
and then they're just like the battle's about to happen. And I remember like gripping the chair like armrest and being like, I'm like, it's happening. This is great. And I'm not even like a big Hulk fan, but just being like ready for like a comic book, colossal fight like that.
Yep.
I was like, oh man, this is next next level. This is going somewhere.
Yeah, dude, it really was. Like, and I was never even a big fan. Like, I grew up reading. I mean, I was a big Spider-Man fan as a kid. Who wasn't? But I grew up reading weird. I read like weird stuff. I was a big Doctor Strange fan, so I was reading a lot of Doctor Strange books in the '60s and '70s. They were very weird. They were all psychedelic colors, and you're wondering what some of the artists were doing when they were drawing this. And I was, you know, I'm reading like Fantastic Four and stuff like that. So I wasn't really reading Avengers much, if at all. I don't even know if I even owned an Avengers comic. So I really didn't know the characters that well. I mean, I knew who they were, but I never really knew them to see them on screen. But like you, when I saw Iron Man, I'm like, okay, this might be cool, you know. And but of course, Robert Downey Jr. I knew who he was, and I'm like, all right, let's go. I love that. When I watched that, I'm like, dude, this is tremendous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, because like you were saying, we're used to seeing, you know, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and stuff like that, which still even back then, especially the Venom one, looked really bad in certain parts and looked like very hokey and hard to believe and stuff. And
it has like those movies were good, but it had like a camp to it, you know.
Correct.
Very campy.
Yeah.
And you knew as a comic book fan, you knew you were gonna like it. But if you sat down with someone who only knows Spider-Man as like the character, they would be like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, garbage.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember taking my wife to the Andrew Garfield one. Her and my oldest daughter went to see the one with the lizard, and they're watching it. My wife's like, "This is like an old King Kong Godzilla movie. This is stupid." And I'm like, but no, you don't get it. It's Spider-Man and lizard and she's like, yeah. Getting it. But yeah, no, it was like, you know, to see all that and then to see this kind of grow into what it's become. And obviously, I've got to ask you, because I've talked to other guests about this too. Tell me about so were you in for Endgame, right? That big moment at the end of that film, which to me is one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen in the theater. Were you in one of the cool theaters for that, where everybody just was like, oh my, like when were you? What an experience!
I was in the theater when where Captain America got Mjolnir.
Yep.
And people went. I almost jumped out of my seat, but then people were actually like in the air in my theater when that happened. But my favorite character is Captain America, and I read a lot.
There you go.
Captain America comics, and he is the leader of the Avengers. So naturally, a lot of the comics I read flowed into Avengers stories. So that's why I guess I had a bit more of a connection to those characters in those movies. But dude, when he got Mjolnir, it was nuts.
It was so cool, because that goes back. I love the callback to that too, because you remember from Age of Ultron where they were all trying to lift it, and then Cap just kind of budged it, and Thor's like,
and Thor gets a little antsy.
Oh man, I mean, Chris Evans, right? What a job he did with that role. You know, like you're thinking of him as the Human Torch in Fantastic Four, and then all of a sudden he becomes like the most iconic character in Marvel. It was, and you know, go back to Cap's first film too. I thought, okay, Iron Man was really good. Cap's film is going to be a period piece. It's going to take place during the World War. I don't know. I was never that big of a war movie fan. I went in and again, they blew it away. They just blew it away. I loved it. I'm like,
one of my favorite, in the universe. One of my favorite.
Yeah, I could totally see it. Yeah, man, you must you must be a guy who really wants to see Cap get some love in the game, dude.
You know, and it sucks when their reasoning is, oh, he's like a beginner card that, you know, he's there to teach people the game. Guess what? So is Iron Man, and Iron Man is in like meta decks.
Yes.
You know, so like he can be too, you know.
If you were a dev, I gotta ask you, how would you change him?
Captain America, man, I haven't even really thought about it.
Okay. Putting you on the spot.
I do like that he has like a team-based ability. You know, maybe it's more, you know, a lot of these 3 costs. If it's a 2 cost, it's becoming, if it's a 2 cost, it's their lane, and if it's a 3 cost, it's global. So maybe there's something that he can do that's global. That's you know, it's probably not +1 because we already have Blue Marvel, or that would be too
Right.
strong for a 3 cost. But there has to be something where if they want to keep him at 3, that he can do that affects all lanes, or affects all of your cards or something. Because when he's in your deck, it should feel like he's the leader of it. It should feel like he's the captain. So I would like him to reflect something like that.
Yeah. Do you think anything with the shield? Like I've heard some other suggestions saying that he comes out, he throws the shield, and the shield can maybe hit every lane, like you were saying, affect all lanes.
Yeah.
So maybe it hits the lanes and it gives some sort of negative power to the cards, whether it's a 1 or a
Yeah,
2.
I would like that. And I would like a lot of, I think with a card like Quinjet, it opens up a lot of space where like things can be cards. Like we should have like Captain America's shield, and Thor does shuffle his hammer into his deck. I do think it's everyone always has the idea. Oh, what is it? Just make Kingpin on reveal. Make this location Kingpin's location, and
Yep.
I feel like that's like everyone's idea is like just do that, or oh, Captain America, just have him shuffle the shield into your deck, and it's just like we have that already. I like when the devs think of like different ideas. So yeah, I would love to see his shield play in some way, but I wouldn't want it to just be like shuffle the shield into your deck or like something.
No, I agree. I would be okay with just an animation. Like if you play him out, you just see the shield go and just
Yeah.
whoop, and just goes into all 3 lanes and does its thing. Yeah, no, I agree. The cards are going to start to get a little crazy, and we'll get into that in a little bit too, because I have the cards from one of the future season passes that we're going to get for Young Avengers that we're going to talk about there too, because we're starting to get now. It looks like we already have Nico, with the spell cards and stuff like that. It looks like we're going to get another character that is going to have cards associated with it. So, you might be right. They might be going somewhere with that. And it could be, that can be a dangerous thing to get into, I think.
Yeah, and I think the devs are pretty good at like keeping things fresh and thinking of new abilities and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's so many cards that are like this can move once. And originally that used to be Nightcrawler, that used to be Nightcrawler's ability. And because he was the only one who could do that, it felt like him. It felt like he was going bamf and he was going somewhere.
Yeah.
And that it felt like Nightcrawler. But now Jeff moves, now Nocturne moves.
Nocturne does it.
And it's just like, so what's special about Nightcrawler? Is it just that he's a 1 cost that can do it? Or is it just that, he has his own animation when he, so my idea was, I wish that Nocturne changed the location she was coming from rather than the one she was going to, so that she felt like a little different, right? Like she was leaving something in her wake rather than she's just Nightcrawler with Scarlet Witch slapped onto her as well.
Yeah.
I just like when things feel like a little different, and it's just like Jeff. I wish Jeff didn't. Honestly, I wish Jeff didn't move at all. I wish his ability was just he could be played anywhere,
any place. Yeah.
Like even I wish he could be played in Death's Domain and he didn't die. Like I just wish he could be played anywhere and he wasn't affected by things. And him being able to move, it just makes him so strong and makes Nightcrawler feel weak that he doesn't have a unique ability.
Yeah, that's kind of true. I mean, Jeff, when you think about it, it would be better if he was able to like more. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's some of these cards that you wonder. Now, I mean, I do like what the devs did with Nocturne, combining Scarlet Witch and Nightcrawler's powers together and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Cool.
It's smart and it's cool design and it speaks to the character. And then if you're like, why does she do that? Then you like look it up and you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Like,
yeah. Have you played with her at all yet?
I opened her and then I grinded to infinite with Blink, so I haven't played her yet.
I saw.
I'm cooking tonight. I'm gonna be in the kitchen.
I didn't realize that, and again, this comes from me not watching the dev videos, which I probably should do. But I didn't realize that card somebody was playing a move deck and changing locations every single time she's moved.
Happened to me yesterday, and I was like, I had the same realization. I was like, oh my god, she goes off multiple times. I had no idea.
That's disgusting, man. Like, because now, granted, they can end up screwing themselves big time if they do it. So it's up in the air for both people. But still, that really, like, you're probably going to see decks with her, decks with Legion, decks with all of those location manipulators that are going to end up in a deck. But I didn't realize that she did that. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. having the one move, but I didn't realize she did it no matter if you move her as well. So yeah, that's gonna be a crazy card. So yeah, no, it's cool. And so all right, so you got into Snap. Did you follow it also maybe because of Ben Brode?
Yes, as a big Hearthstone guy, as soon as he announced he was making his own studio,
Yep.
I was following that right away, and fine. It's so weird to remember following it from the like not even the announcement of the game, but the announcement of the studio, and then thinking like, wow, this is never coming out, and now like I'm fully on like playing it 2 years later into the game. I'm like playing it.
All right. I'm gonna ask you some questions. So, and we'll
Sure.
just go over this real quickly. This will be just like just kind of a state of the game kind of conversation because I want to get your thoughts on some of this. One of the big questions that I've had a lot of people asking me, and I'm sure you get this too. What do you think about the way the game is going as far as economy of the game goes? And I've heard so many things from many different great people talking about it. But yeah, I want to get your thoughts on like obviously in this last maybe 3 or 4 week period or so, right? We got those emotes super expensive that came out, right? Everybody was up in an uproar about those. Then we got the patch that was no patch, that was just cosmetics that costed money. And so like as a creator, because this is why I like to talk about things like that with you guys, because you come from it from a different standpoint, as far as like you're streaming the game, so and you're going to get live reactions to all of this in your streams from so many people. So yeah, talk to me about like where what do you think of all this? Because my thing is look, cosmetics are to me what they are, right? They're in everything. You're going to see those in every game that you play. I think people tend to forget, like you were saying you're a gamer. When you're playing even a regular video game, right? Like let's say you got the latest Spider-Man game. There's going to be more to it. They're going to sell you costumes. They're going to sell you new boards. Yeah. So there's money to everything. And this is the way these games have to exist. I mentioned that other lousy Marvel game that lasted 6 months and died, and I spent all that money, but they weren't making money on it. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on some of this stuff? And what are your reactions to, to hearing all of the kind of uproar about the fact that, oh my God, they're killing me. I can't get this stuff because I can't spend this kind of money on the game.
I think, obviously I have so many thoughts that as me, I have a lot to say. But I think my biggest problem lately has been, and Drew Berry did a great video on this.
I saw that. He really did.
He articulated what I've been trying to convey for so long to the devs, in a way that I just was missing the mark. But I'm so glad he made his video because it hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, it really did.
Is that there's this sense of, yes, they're cosmetics, right? If you don't want to spend $20 on an emote, don't. It's not going to affect your gameplay. It's not going to affect your climb. It's not going to affect your performance. But we'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
But there's this overwhelming sense of desensitization, or there's so many, and I tweeted this today, but it was buried in a thread, so not a lot of people are going to see it, but they keep adding aspects to the game and features to the game and things to the game that I'm going to completely ignore. So they built up the albums, right? They were like, albums are going to be so cool. You're going to be able to collect and grow and blah, blah, blah. And then they just turned out to be like another whale track.
Yep.
So now I'm ignoring that. Then they have, there was a time where the shop had like $700 bundles in it at one time.
Yep.
And I click the shop to go get my daily credits, and I have to scroll by a bundle and scroll by a bundle and scroll by a bundle. So I'm scrolling past all the bundles that I'm desensitized to and I'm not looking at. And then they add, they're adding this league feature.
Yep.
It looks to just be like the actual definition of pay to win. There's a lot of things where people say like, hey, that's fucking pay to win. And you're like, no, it isn't. You just, are mad about it.
There it is,
actually pay to win. You can actually pay to win your league if you want to. So now I'm going to ignore this too, right? So now, how many things can I ignore before I'm ignoring the majority of the game?
The game, yep.
So if I'm coming in and I just want to play Marvel Snap, how much of Marvel Snap is the game? Is it how long before it's only 20% of the game? And I have to sift through all this stuff, right? Where's the play button? I have to dodge the bundles, and I have to dodge the leagues. I have to dodge the notifications of my album isn't complete. And I have to dodge the notification that there's a shop takeover and everything is 1,200 gold. And I have to dodge the notification that there's a new album, but there's a ultimate variant in it that you'll never get. And then I click the play button and I get to play my game finally. So as a creator, I complain. That's my thing. I don't know if you know this about me. I complain.
That's perfectly fine, dude. Because you know what? Listen, I have no qualms about doing that either. So
I complain as a creator, and people are like, "Oh, shut up, Interrobang. You just want free stuff." I don't want free stuff. I'm going to play the game no matter what, because I'm a streamer. And if I ever try to play any other game, I'm going to have 0 viewers. So I'm playing Marvel Snap. I'm complaining because if everyone feels how I'm feeling and they're not a streamer and they don't have to play the game, then I'm going to be streaming to nobody because nobody's going to be playing or care about the game.
100%.
And I'm not some brainiac. I know the devs factor this in and they think about this. But to see this is the latest thing, this league thing, to see this and for them to think that they thought that this was okay. Now I do feel like a brainiac because I can come to them and I can say, guys, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like who greenlit this? Like, I don't understand. Like there's a really good player, Torikun, who literally mapped out how you can abuse this and just be number one. If you're pre-infinite and you buy, there's a shield you can buy. There's a point shield where if you lose, if you lose a match, you don't lose points. So for a half hour, you can lose to human players until you get a bot, hit the bot for 8 cubes. Now you're moving up your ladder. And then once that 30 minutes runs out, buy another shield and keep doing it. Now you only have wins under your belt, right? So now you look at your leaderboard and you have like 8,000 points. You're top of the leaderboard. Second person has like 400 points. And then you get a spotlight key. And now that goes back to the second thing, right? It's just cosmetics. Who cares? If you're going to complain about cosmetics, then you don't know what you're talking about. But it's not just cosmetics anymore, right? The bundles have spotlight keys in them.
Yep.
Albums reward spotlight keys. They reward credits. They reward things that you need to unlock cards. Cards are now, if you're paying for cards, now it's pay to win. Now you're in pay to win territory. I'm not saying it's directly pay to win because, you should be able to buy game pieces or whatever. But the Marvel Snap is fueled by FOMO. Like you have, if you go to the Discord every day, there's at least one question of like, hey, when are bundle variants coming back?
Mm-hmm.
And say never. They're never coming back. So you better buy them now. And they're feeding into this sense of FOMO. And the cards that you need, if you don't have the keys or the funds or the resources at the time, you're going to look for any way you can do it, and that means buying $100 bundle, or that means buying a variant that you don't even want to complete an album to get a key out of it.
Yep.
And the greatest example of that is during the Loki season, during Mobius week. Mobius was the card everybody needed. It was the only card at the time that countered Loki, and Loki was off the charts at the time. Loki was like at the height of its power, and they were like, "Don't worry, hey guys, don't worry,
it's coming." That was the jet ski Mobius bundle.
He also made Mobius. He's a card you need. So now there's these people who don't. They're not us. Maybe they have 1 key, or maybe they have 2 keys. And they go to open for Mobius because you need Mobius, and they whiff and they don't get him. And then when he leaves Spotlight Caches, don't worry, guys, we're here to help. $100 bundle with Mobius in it. The week after he leaves Spotlight Caches. That's the most egregious. It still makes me mad to this day that they thought that was okay. Or more people didn't complain. They were just like, "Oh, thank God, Mobius! Now I can buy him for $100." It was so stupid, man. I can't believe they got away with that. It was so dumb.
Didn't something similar happen with Darkhawk too, and that whole thing? With the
So everyone had, series drops used to be on a set schedule where you knew exactly what was coming, And guess what? It's Darkhawks week. Everyone's like, oh man, I can't wait to get Darkhawk. Nope, flexible drops are happening now.
Yeah.
So don't worry. Maybe Darkhawk will drop one day, but in the meantime,
Here's a Darkhawk bundle.
Here he is, right here. You could buy him. Oh man, and they had the stupid 3x banner on it, and then they make an emote. They make an emote of Darkhawk holding the 3x banner. Haha, we're in on the joke, guys. Oh my god, it boils my blood, man. I hate it so much. And then people like Interrobang, they're allowed to joke about it. They're not being self-aware. They're making money off ripping you off again. They're making money out of ripping you off. Oh my god.
Yeah, dude, it's yeah. There were some really, really bad. See, and those things for sure were horrendous, and I know a lot of people were talking about that when that happened. I think more recently now, with all the stuff that had happened, okay, so with the emotes, they have to be in touch with all this, so they know they pissed people off with the emote stuff. They know they did. Why do that release of the borders right after that with no card changes? When they never did that before, why would you do that? To me, that's just suicide. You are just like killing yourself at that point, because like you were saying, what's scary to me, right? And I mean, and I know you do too. I have a blast doing this, mostly because I'm meeting amazing people and I get to talk about Marvel Snap. You know, I'm sure love streaming because you love to play the game and you get to talk to people and stuff in your streams. But I just don't get it. Like, why would you do that knowing full well you already have an angry mob pretty much anyway, kind of starting out a little bit already that are kind of cheesed off from the emotes, and then all of a sudden you put this out there. All right, well, here you go. Here's a bunch of borders. Yeah, they all cost money. And yeah, by the way, if you buy one, they work for one card. Yeah. So I'm like, dude, it's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I
think it's two things, right? I think it's either, it could be two things. It's either something went wrong. I think a legitimate thing that could happen, and the only reason this is a thing is because I believe that these devs for some reason really like to save face a lot. They can't just be like, hey, we fucked up. They maybe they loaded up a patch and something went wrong and they had to take all the card changes out, and they were like, all right, just ship it with the border thing. Like, we have to ship something.
That could be.
I'm speculating. This isn't what happened. But like, I could see maybe that happening, and I could see them saying like, but don't say anything. Because I don't know why, but there's been so many instances where they can't admit that they're wrong, or they double down on like a bad decision. And listen, that might just come with the territory, because if you give too much, then people will be down your throat. But like, I don't know. I can easily armchair developer here and be like, hey, if I messed up, I would just admit it and be like, hey, here's what happened. But I don't know. The other thing is the other option, in my eyes, it's only one of two of these things. The other option is they have literally no self-awareness at all. And I don't put it past them. I don't put it past them. I think there's been multiple times where they put out $100 bundle, and when people are mad, they're like, hey, I don't know why these guys are mad. Like, they should love this. And there's been so many instances of that where I don't put it past them, where they think that they could ship a patch where everyone is expecting card change, and then they double down. They're right. They're like, actually, we said that card changes may not happen in the patch. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, sure, you did say that. This is the first time that has ever happened.
Yes.
But you managed to ship another thing that we could buy.
Yep.
And then what was funny was, excuse me, I tweeted, KMBest does these like hot takes. And
yes, I saw that. He picked yours. Yeah.
My hot take was, I wish that they would just slow down a little bit.
Yep.
And just do a little upkeep and do a little maintenance. And you know, my wife tries to play and she can't even boot up the game on the iPad because
it's been awful. Slow. My iPad is hardly, my crashes on me constantly.
Yeah, even after re-downloading the assets
me too.
Twice, it's still slow for her.
Yep.
So I was like, hey, you know, why don't they just slow down? I'm not saying like stop releasing cards. I know they have to do that, but like slow down, fix the app, take a breather. We'll all understand if you're like, hey, we're making the app better. Everyone will be like, oh, that's great. So then that came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, Interrobang, you got your wish." Like they listened and they did it. I'm like, "No, they didn't. This is actually the smallest batch of fixes alongside the border selling."
Yep.
So not only like did they ship the thing that we could buy, but it's also the smallest patch like ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if I've been noticing too lately. Like, there's even worse. There's more stuff happening now too. Like, I noticed the last couple of days when I'm playing when you finish a game, and when the game ends, my screen flickers every single time that I get this little my screen, like it's almost like it's lagging at the end. And I'm like, man, it's 100%. Like, take some time. At least you could turn around and say, okay, here's the borders. Do what you will with them, but we now fixed all of this graphical stuff. I know. Listen, I'm not, like you were saying, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know how to fix stuff with the games. Sure. I'm not going to say I'm a dad, because I'm not. I know nothing about that, but at least maybe do some things that people could look at and say, oh, wow, this plays a lot better now. Okay, I'm cool with that. Yeah, the border thing kind of pissed me off, but I'm cool with this because at least now it's playing better. No, man, like I get it. And I'll be honest with you. Like, you talked about the Drewberry thing. I watched it too. Some of that scares me. It does, because
you can see the pain in his eyes.
You can tell he cares.
You can tell that he loves Marvel Snap.
You can.
Like, he has to sift through all this crap to get to the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, like I said, some of that scares me. When I start hearing, even a guy like Cozy, when I hear him start to talk about, hey, guys, Marvel Rivals is coming up, and I'm going to stream that on another channel, I'm like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
It's scary, and for people who are, Rivals looks cool and everything. I've never been an Overwatch player. I'm not good at games like that. So it's like, I don't even know whether I'm going to play it. I was never good at those types of games. So it's like, awesome that that's coming out, but that's not my thing. But it's a little scary knowing that, hey, I really like this game. I want it to do well. And I hope they get talked to a lot by the outside. You're always seeing the devs taking questions and stuff like that, which is good. But I hope that they listen to, and I think they do. They've heard. I've seen Glenn on with everybody now, right? He's been on with KM Best. He's been on with Dara. He's been on, and I just kind of hope that they hear this kind of stuff, and they take it to heart and start to be like, yeah, you know what? We have to change some things up here a little bit going forward.
They're all really, really smart guys. They all know what they're doing.
No doubt. They all
know way more than me.
Absolutely.
And I can say that fully and wholly. But, the lead, not finance, but I guess monetization guy, Steven, came from Fortnite. And Fortnite is like the king of monetization.
Yes, it is.
I also play Fortnite. I play Fortnite every night before stream. So I play Fortnite, then I jump on Marvel Snap. And I go to I never once go to the shop and feel like I'm being, taken advantage of by the prices in there, and they have hundreds of things you can buy. So you go in there, you see all the stuff. If it's not for you, you're like, all right, let's jump into a game.
Yep.
And then you don't even think about it, because the things are priced reasonable. You earn V-Bucks from just playing, and that's, it's fine. And Steven came from Fortnite. Like, he worked on that type of monetization. So it's weird to see it being done so differently here, right? So like the V-Bucks in Fortnite are essentially like the gold of Marvel Snap.
Right.
And for them to remove the gold from the reserves very early on in that change, that was like a huge red flag for me. And it was a huge red flag for other people, but slowly over time, people, forgot about that and they just accepted that these are the reserves now. But I have like 400 unopened reserves, and when people see me stream, they're like, "Hey, Interrobang, why do you hold on to those?" And it's because they're fucking useless.
They're not worth opening.
I don't even need the stuff that's in them.
Yep.
Honestly, they're actually less than useless. They're enraging, because if I open one and I get an avatar,
yep.
If I get a pixel avatar from one of those things, I want to end stream. I want to like stop playing. Like this is stupid as hell. Like I don't want this crap.
Or tickets. Like
Yeah, and I play Conquest. If I play
right.
Conquest and I don't want a ticket, who knows how little other people value them? Because I don't want them at all.
Yep.
And gold doesn't get you anything. Gold gets you a cosmetic.
Yep.
So if gold isn't getting you game pieces, why do we get tokens and not gold? And I'm not saying take tokens out, but aren't tokens more valuable? Tokens get you the cards that they're trying to sell us. So why did they take the gold out of the reserves? Like I don't understand.
Yeah. I was talking to Lauren yesterday. She does a lot with the economy of Snap and everything, and you know, she was trying to come up with a method too, like thinking like, okay, how do we fix this? You know, and there's like, if it were in your hands, right, and if you had control of, let's say the spotlight system, right, you know, what would you like? What would you do? To try to make that a little bit better? I know I'm probably putting you on the spot here, but what would you do to try to make that a little bit better?
No, there's a bunch of things, and I think a lot of them are rooted in that fourth mystery option. I think one of Marvel Snap's like has to be top 3 worst things about Marvel Snap are their fallback rewards, and what I mean by that is when you have the core of something complete, and then there's like a backup reward. Like say you have, you know, like Super Tech God or Myth Snap on Twitter. When they open a variant and they have all the variants, they get garbage.
Yes, they do.
They for being the game's biggest supporter for having every variant, which is like thousands and thousands.
That's insane. Yeah.
Their reward for that is a pile of garbage. They get either a pixel avatar or gold. They get like 200 gold when they open a mystery variant or something like that. That is terrible. And the same thing goes for the spotlight caches, right? The opening that fourth option and getting a dupe and your reward is 1,000 tokens. That is so bad. That is such a bad feeling that and again, this goes back to the monetization guy, the guy in charge of this came from Fortnite, where everything is sick as hell. Everything is awesome in Fortnite. How did he land on this and be like, A, hey, they're gonna love this, or B, yeah, we can get away with this. Like this is fine. Like I can't wrap my head around it. And so when you say how would you change spotlight caches, it all falls back to that mystery option. I would, and I understand that it can't be no duplicates. Like that's too generous. That's too, you know, the streamers who have every single card will just be able to open it and get the new card right away. And they don't want it to function that way. But at the very least, it actually just happened to my wife. My wife is not even Series 3 complete. She's missing like something like 70 cards. She opened during Shaw week and opened Shaw and then opened the mystery option, and it was Shaw again.
Oh man.
And
that's awful.
Back to back. So she opened Shaw. She was like, oh, sweet, new card. And then she opened Shaw again, and she looked at me, and I didn't even know what to say. I was like, yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Like that happens sometimes. She's like, but I'm missing 70 cards.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And I'm like, yeah, you know, like it makes me like scratch my head. I'm like, like I don't know. I don't even know how to defend it. It's terrible. So I would say at the very least, that mystery option, if you don't want to put dupe protection on it, I think it shouldn't be able to give you the week's cards. It shouldn't, whatever's highlighted
same week
shouldn't be in that mystery option. I think that would be such a leap and bound over what it currently is. And I'm saying that's at the very least. I have way more things that should be different about it, but I cannot believe that they think it should function like that.
Yeah. Lauren was talking a lot about dupe protection too. Like try to make it so that you get, you know, you're protected from, and then, you know, she's saying that as you go up and people get closer to collection complete, then the dupe protection could go down just a little bit for those people because they're closer. But the people that are down lower that have less, and that, I'm like, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Like, and I don't really see why that would be difficult to do. So, yeah.
Well, as long as the card options. One thing that I always say is that the Spotlight Week should be sort of an algorithm, like the variant shop,
Yes.
because as long as the Spotlight Weeks are handpicked or cherry picked by somebody, I don't know what Wizard of Oz behind the curtain is picking them.
Somebody
Always,
who loves Null very
yeah, there's always
much.
going to be a little bit of like skew to it. There's always going to be a little
Yeah.
bit, and then there's like these data mines, right? Like the data mine came out where I forgot I forgot the specifics, but like Miss Marvel was with like Ghost Spider or something, and we knew that like a month ago, and then all of a sudden, things got swapped when it was time when the actual season happened.
Yep.
And it makes you think, right? It makes you think during that whole month of we have a data mine and people are chat, this chatter, right? There's people saying like, oh, this week sucks. Oh, I'm going to open for this week. All these, thank God that it's a 3-card week for me. I'm definitely going to open this, but ignore these 3. That gives them time to be like, well, why don't we, like maybe we'll put this one here, and now they have to open 2 weeks, and now it's not a 3-card week for them, but it's a 2-card week here and it's a 1-card week here, and they have to, it gives them time to adapt to people's reactions to the spotlight caches. And the data mines are nice to have for certain things, but they're also great for the devs because it's almost like a test for them. They can put
Yeah.
out, here's what we're going to do, and then people are like, whoa, this sucks, and then they can change it, or they can be like, whoa, this is so awesome, I can't believe they would do this, and then like, wait, this might be a little too generous, let's scale it back a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think and people, again, I'm being an armchair dev, but if it could work, they put up some parameters, right? Maybe you can't have Thanos, Galactus, and High Evo in the same week, twice in a row or something.
Right.
Put up some parameters where these cards can only be together, 5% of the time, and there can never be, 3. You can't see the card for another 3 weeks or something like that. But then let it happen, and let these magical weeks be like these awesome blips of like, oh my god, I can't believe Galactus and Thanos is in the same week. Everyone is like, holy crap, this is so sick. I'm gonna open, and then like there's like these little blips of like energy for the game, and people are like happy about it and excited about it. But as long as someone can be like, now let's put Null again with Ghost Spider, and then
17
someone's like,
nulls.
and then this guy is like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I actually need Null and Ghost Spider. And then they're like, actually, let's put Null in this week over here.
Yep.
As long as that can happen, spotlight caches suck, dude. They suck so bad. As long as someone is pulling the levers, they'll never be good.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, and I mentioned this on the podcast with her yesterday too. They're getting worse. Like this months are horrible. They're literally horrible. The only card I could look out there and see is like Legion if you don't have him, because Legion's so good. But like they're not. Yeah, I don't get it. And then when I hear them talk about, well, we don't have the variants to do. I don't want to hear that, because you can do those comic book variants. I love them. The comic book covers with the Marvel Comics group on the top, the Man Thing one, and had that. Like, I love those. You have access to, obviously, if that is part of the license, which it looks like it is because you've used them, you have access to that art. There is so much of that out there that you can use for almost any card.
Not only are you right about that, but if they really want to rely on that excuse, then you weren't ready to launch the system.
Yep.
And I say this all the time. This goes back to like week 4 of Spotlight Caches launching. They were already not ready for it. They were already like looping back. We saw Null twice in a row. In like the first 2 months. People were like, wait, why is Null back? And then we didn't see Howard for like 6 months or something. And that's what I mean with the fallback. I hate Spotlight variants. First of all, they just completely devalued them by announcing that you're going to be able to buy them later. So now I'm wasting the most precious resource, the Spotlight key, on these variants that I can just get later. I'm leasing these variants for a Spotlight key is like around $50 or $60 USD. So I'm buying these variants early, and then people can just go buy them for whatever they plan on, the 3,000 gold or whatever they end up being. So what did I get?
Yeah.
I got to play a play with a rare picture for a year before anybody else. Like,
Yeah.
and one last thing I want to touch on
Oh
is
yeah, sure, absolutely.
Series 4 is dead. Like
Oh no, yeah.
what's the last Series 4 we got?
Oh my god, I can't even remember.
Because that is what was making an additional card. You know, they added the additional card a month. Now there's 5 cards a month because
Yep.
you get a week 1 and the pass card. So they added an additional card, and the Series 4 was what was making it sustainable for a lot of people.
Yep.
They were going to buy, you know, Series 4s when they could and open for Series 5s, and now Series 4 is dead, and everything is near unobtainable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it just really sucks that, and you touched on that in the Discord. You know, the devs are in there and they're answering people, but I don't go in there and ask why didn't Captain Marvel move. I go in there and I ask some questions that I would like answers to, and they get ignored for a long time until I go to Twitter and I say, hey, I asked this question for you guys, but they're not answering me. Then all of a sudden, you know, someone will jump in there and answer. But for a long time, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and I put my question in there, and I know they're busy guys, and I
Yeah.
know I don't expect special treatment. You know, you can get to my question when you want. But when I say like, hey, why has the weekend missions been 200 tokens for 7 months when they launched, we got, you know, 3,000 tokens for a card. What's up with that? And their response is, "Oh, keep giving us feedback. We're learning about it." Like, okay, how long do you need to learn? Like, what do you need to learn that I don't
Right.
want 200 tokens? Like you need me to send you a postcard about that, or like, what do you need to learn?
I remember seeing, it's funny because I see your posts every single Friday right before I do my goofy Agatha decks on my mittens. I use
As
every
a
single.
tradition.
I made a meme out of weekend missions because I use Agatha only. That's all I play with weekend missions because it's the most ridiculous thing ever. But yeah, I remember when I go in, I'm like, yep, Intero's thing's going to be here, but the weekend missions. Yeah,
Do you
man.
know how awesome it's going to be when they're finally not 200 tokens?
Oh my God. I
Like,
know.
I'm gonna like spam.
Just celebrate.
But that day also may never come
No.
because I'm the only one talking about it. Like, nobody cares. I don't understand, man.
Oh my gosh. And well, yeah, dude. And look, it's like, it's no secret, right? Gold is getting scarce. And that's even getting cut back and everything. Like you're not like all that stuff. You like you were saying, the tokens and all that is getting, it's all of it's getting cut back. So it's like it's hard not to notice. And so, I really hope that things get done, whether it's to change up the caches or to completely revamp that system at this point, or whether they go back to even like Series 3 and do stuff for that, something. But sustainability is the name of the game with this, and if you can't sustain yourself in a mobile game primarily, and I don't care, I know a lot of people play this on PC. This is primarily a mobile game. It started that way, and I think probably, I don't know, maybe stats will show different, but I would say that most people probably play it on mobile, at least some of the time.
Yeah, I mean these mobile first games, that is where the success lies, right? And listen, I don't know the intricacies, but
Yeah.
Dual Force came out, and
Oh,
it was a cool game, had a cool
yeah.
following.
Yep.
And it failed
Yep.
because, and in my eyes, it failed because there was no mobile client. I couldn't
Yep.
sit on the toilet and
Right.
move my Batman around on my phone, and that's
Yep.
why it failed. And that's why Marvel Snap is awesome, because
Absolutely.
it's so snappy and good on your phone.
Yep.
And now it isn't. You know, it's like sluggish, and I can't move around. I can't open my boxes.
Yep.
There's glitches everywhere. And they're just like, buy the borders, you know, like, and I don't want to buy the borders. I want to play my game. And if it's going to be a mobile first game, if you open any other mobile game, there's so much stuff to do, you know, like, and I don't want to compare it to like Candy Crush or these, you know, stupid games that you can download.
Candy Crush is an unusual thing because you don't see them last that long most of the time. But yeah, I get you.
But like, there's like events, and there's special ladders you can join, and there's things you can do, and then also aside from all those things, you can also just play the game that you logged into and you want to play the game. Um, with Marvel Snap, there's nothing to do. Like you log in and you play the game, and then if you're over it for the day and you want to,
Yep.
but you still want to like do something in Marvel Snap, you go to your collection, you like move your cards around a little bit, and then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I guess I'll shut the game off now because there's nothing to do. And Conquest was the answer for that for a little bit, but they launched that and never did anything with it,
No, they
and
haven't.
left it off to die, and they won't
Yep.
update it or add anything to it. And there's so many problems with Conquest, and they just don't care. And they and there's so many things that so many little fixes, so many quality of life things that they can do, but they're on this one track of like release the cards, buff and nerf the cards, release the bundles, and it's just over and over and over. They're on this track and they won't do anything. And they say, hey, things are coming. They just launched the leagues. We know that clans are coming and all this
Yeah.
stuff. But how long is everything's taking so long? And there's nothing to do. Like we can play our game, but then there's nothing to do. And I just wish I love Marvel Snap so much. I just wish I could spend more time in the app doing something substantial. And people are like, hey, and everyone joins my stream and they're like, Interrobang, what's your rank? And I'm like, guys, I hit infinite. I do the day one infinite grind, and
Yep.
then I never touch it again because there's no rewards. You don't earn anything from it.
Yep.
And that might be fine. Maybe you want to grind ladder and see how high your rank can do. But when there's this other game mode, no matter how bad it is, where I can earn medals that I can then spend on stuff,
On stuff.
even at the end of the season, if I'm just getting boosters, I'm getting a lot of. I have usually at the end of a season, I have like 50 or 60,000 boosters from just playing Conquest all season.
Yeah.
That's a lot of like I'm set up, like I'm good. Like I don't need boosters for anything. Like I can just upgrade my cards, and there's no time gate, and I don't have to wait. And that's from playing a mode where I earned something from it. Ladder, you don't get anything.
It's
You
very
don't get
true.
anything from it.
Yep. It's very true.
And
I
it just feels very like futile. Like it feels like I'm like wasting my time almost.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I listen, I 100%, I agree. I've played now, I'm honest with all the people that I talk to and stuff like that. I've never hit infinite. I never have. The closest I got was 99.
Oh,
And yeah, that's a horror story. That was like, I went against so many of the rules that you'll hear like the good guys, the good players like Lambie talk about. That was my own stupid fault. I got to 99 and I'm like, all right, you get to 99, you get that little bit of nervousness in your. I'm
yeah.
sitting there like, why am I like nervous about this stupid game? But you're sitting there and and then I lose, and I drop down like 2 cubes, and I'm like, all right, back at it. I'm going in the thing, and in fact, I think I was playing with a Galactus deck at the time. So then I'm like, all right, back to it, and I lost like 2 more. And that, mind you, this was probably because I'm always playing like super late at night, so this is probably like 1:30 in the morning. So that's 2 bad things right there. You're tired, number 1. Now you're frustrated, number 2. Perfect example. By the time I was done with all that, because all I could keep saying to myself is, I want to win a game. I want to win just one game. Right. And then by the time I was done, I was down to 82 after that. And I was like, this sucks. And I never got that close. So I'm like, but like you, I have turned to Conquest because I like it. I like it. To me, that's a better form of the game, and for the mere fact that there's less RNG. You're playing that whole entire match. You may get screwed a few times because it always happens. Ladder, you get screwed, you lose, and you have to leave.
Yeah.
Or if not, maybe you're going to try to beat the odds and stick around, thinking like, okay, I can make a comeback from this. But then many times you're losing big. So that's why I like Conquest, and I go and I do it. But you're right. It's like, what is it? Like you're going through the other day and I see you've gotten, 10 of those infinite borders. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, man, like
That
do
was my
something.
best season. I couldn't believe how good I was doing.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you were killing it, man. I want to talk about your deck in a little bit, but yeah, 100%, dude. I wanted to hear about, about that from you. And I think it's great to hear, from someone like yourself, because, you've got more at stake. You're a creator. You are doing streams for this game, and stuff like that. So, not to mention you just enjoy it. And that's one of the things. Everybody who talks about this, and some people would say, oh, you're just being negative, it's not. It's because, like you were saying earlier, Drew Barry made that video because he loves the game and he wants to see it succeed. And I think that's the thing with everyone, and the stuff that you had just mentioned, and that you were talking about, is because you want to see the game succeed. And the fact is, when you look back at a lot of these mobile games, you mentioned Candy Crush, there are so little rather games like Candy Crush that have been around for years and years and years. And there's way more of the ones that come out. They last 2 or 3 years and then they're gone because the things just don't line up and they're not doing the things the way that they should do. So yeah, man, it's, I appreciate it. A great discussion. And I love getting your opinion on all that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this really quickly. So you mentioned that the leagues, now we're getting alliances as well. Alliances, there's some things here. We don't know, obviously, everything about them. I know you had mentioned you're going to do it. If you do a Galactus one, I'm in. I'm just telling you right now. I'm in. I said, yep, I'll be joining that one for sure. But there's things I like about this. And again, there's some things I don't. The 25 person, oh man, is that going to be rough?
Really small. And
that's
listen,
I'm
like a small guy. Like I'm not like a Kane Best or a Dara or like something.
Yeah,
like that. So I was like, maybe I'll put it out. I jokingly put it out there. I was like, who wants, if I made one, who would be in it? I got so many responses, dude. And
I'm sure you did.
I have like the 25 limit. Like,
yeah. How do you choose?
Yeah. Or
how
like,
do you choose?
Do they expect there to be like, this is so funny. I'm showing my age here. I used to play like SOCOM online. And,
I remember that.
You had to like buy like a hard drive for your PlayStation 2,
and,
like screw it into the back and put your Ethernet cord in it.
Yep.
And they had the same, you could make a clan and they had the same limitations. They had it was like 15 people or something. So what you would do is you would make like a sister clan. Like you would make your clan and then you would elect like a co-captain and he would create the second clan. Like, so I'm thinking like, this is like flashing back in my head. Is this what they expect us to do? Do they expect it to be like an Interrogang and then like an Interrogang 2 and an Interrogang 3 and then we just have like 50 people who are all separated from each other? Because that's not ideal. That's not like fun. So the 25 person limit is brutal.
It is. Yeah, for creators, for sure. Like you had said.
And then because if there's also alliance rewards,
yep.
Who am I to be like, nah, sorry, like I only want the best, like, because you can see right here, right? Like there's a collection level limit, and there's like, have they hit infinite? Like who? Like I have to like put those restrictions on people and be like, nah, I really want the reward, so you're out. Like that's like horrible.
Yeah, it is. Because even if you do it like, even if you do a lottery for it, let's say, you're still gonna have feels bad. It doesn't matter. You're gonna all the other people that you're leaving out, and like you said, my God, imagine the people that like Cozy, who has 1 million followers or whatever on YouTube. Like you can't possibly do it at that point. Those guys are gonna be like, I can't do this. I'm gonna have to just do this with like friends of mine or something like that because I can't.
There's gonna be, and then the lamest thing is gonna be there's gonna be like a streamer alliance, and it's there's just all of them are just gonna be in one.
Yep.
Like obviously like Lambie is gonna have like the best of the best, and he's just gonna have grind for all the rewards and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, is this really what you want this to be, or do you want it to be like a group of people who like hanging out with each other, like having fun?
I did a lot of guilds and stuff when I played World of Warcraft. It was just a big thing, but guilds were unlimited. There was no limit on them. Anybody could join. Now, granted, you had a guild master that had to kind of you'd watch out for it because you could tell when there were players that were never playing. After a while, those players just got booted because you're like, all right, they're never playing anyway, so they're no use to us. They're not playing, so they're not doing anything. And so, to me, I don't know, that seems like a better way to do it. Just let anybody that wants to join, and then whoever is a guild master, maybe you can appoint somebody else to even help you with it that can keep track of that. I think that would have been fine. But yeah, no, you're right. I hope that they look into that. And because this could be cool, especially if there's ways to communicate with fellow players. Look, I'm all for that. I was a big Magic the Gathering guy in the 90s. I was playing face-to-face Magic with people when we were playing with the actual cards.
Yeah.
It was one of the best times of my life because I met so many people playing that game because we'd go to these tournaments or we'd go to, just a weekly place we'd go to play. And I'm meeting all these people that I know still today that I talk to. And that's one of the things you don't get when you're doing this kind of thing. So if there's a way to communicate with everybody in there and you could just kind of chat and everything like that, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so definitely.
Well, we'll see. I guess it should be coming up pretty soon, I would think. They're testing it now, so we'll see what we end up getting for it. So this is kind of neat, right? So for Twitch drops, I love this, and I hope they continue to do it. Man, I don't. Did you stream on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
You must have had like awesome numbers for this.
All the big guys are doing like 24-hour streams.
I saw Binks. Oh, poor Binks, dude.
And I start streaming at midnight EST. So I get like a little bump, but I'm not like the 7,000 people.
Yeah.
But these are all, I was talking about FOMO before, and Marvel Snap runs on FOMO, but I think there's like good FOMO and bad FOMO.
Yes.
I think like good FOMO is like, a lot of people ask like, hey, can we pin variants in the shop?
Yeah.
And I think it's good that you can. I think it's like if you see a variant that you want, you should buy it, and that is what should make the Marvel Snap finances go round.
Yeah,
not all the other crap that we just talked about.
Yeah,
and that's like wielding FOMO for good. And I think I love exclusive stuff, which is why if Spotlight variants were like you get these and then you never get them again, that would be really, really cool. But now that I know you can buy them, like I don't care about them.
Yeah.
This stuff, these Twitch drops that you can only get one time from watching your favorite streamer, and then they're never, you can never get them again, and they look this cool. This is what it's all about for me. This is
100%. 100%. I want to see them do more of this. In fact, if they're going to go with this X-Men 97 theme, which by the way, oh my God, what a show. It's so good. it's so good, dude. I watched the episode before I came on from today. Oh my God, it blew my mind.
I think it was just renewed for another season.
I would renew that for as long as I can get out of it right now, because
what a gem.
I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything because I don't know what everybody out there that's going to listen has watched so far, but today I never, ever thought I'd see something like that in an animated series. Never in a million years. So this is fantastic. I would love to see them. Hell, if they're going to keep, and I hope they do more of these, like the X-Men 97s. They look so good. They even have that little logo that looks like an old trading card from back in the day. Keep doing these. Make another 2 and just keep doing them for Twitch streams. I think that's brilliant. And just keep you're right. This is fantastic. You're not sitting there for 6. Yeah, and look, I know that people don't necessarily have to sit there and watch for 6 hours. They can put their iPad to the side and just go. Right. But you're still doing your thing for 6 hours to get a pixel in most cases, so this is way better, and I'm really, really glad that they did it. Not just for the people that are getting the cards, which they are awesome, but again, for the people who are streaming it, I think it's great too. You're going to get a little bump, in the people that are watching, and it's just a feels good thing overall. I think.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. I mentioned Binks. I will never feel bad again, by the way, about not hitting infinite, because let me tell you something. I'm watching that dude yesterday. He played for 14 hours. 14 hours. to go from, because he starts at 70, because right,
Yeah.
you guys, when you hit infinite, you're starting at 70, right?
Yep.
Or is it 70? It's 70. Yeah.
It's
He start
73.
or is it 73?
Yeah.
He started at 73 and played 14 hours to get to 100. I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, I think sometimes people don't really understand. Like, there is time involved with that.
Oh yeah.
You have to have the time to do it. And for people who are casuals, it's not as easy, because you really need to sit down and play a good amount of time. Not only that, but he's playing a brand new deck that he just made with a new card, so you're learning the deck and stuff as you're going. So again, it's not something that you're just going to plug. You just take an old reliable like Hela. All right, I'm just going to play Hela and just get to infinite. Okay, but you're playing a new deck and learning a new deck. But to get to there, yeah, it's you need the time to do it. And I like to talk about that because I think there's a lot of people who listen to my show that know that I'm a casual player. I just don't have as much. I wish I had more time to play. I just don't.
I think for the casual player, I think you're supposed to take all season to get to infinite.
Yeah.
I think maybe you hit infinite in the last week of the season. I don't think, I do these silly, day one infinite posts, but that's just become sort of a tradition, right? It's not because it's not because it's easy or because whatever. And no one should aspire. Listen, you don't want to be me. You don't want to play the game for 7 hours and hit infinite with bloodshot eyes at 7 a.m. in the morning, and your dog is like barking at you. And you're
like, why aren't you in bed?
You don't want that. You want to take your time. You want to hit, a couple ranks a day, and then maybe by, May 25th or something like that, you're like, hey, an infinite, it was awesome, a good season.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to play a little bit of conquest, something like that.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. Because I think just a lot of people just listen, we all watch streamers. I have my favorites that I watch all the time, and many people I know do, and a lot of times when you're a casual player and you're watching people like yourself, or when you're watching others do it, you're like, man, they make it look easy, and then right away you're going to think, oh, I should be playing this deck because this deck's going to work for me. Look how good it's doing for them. It doesn't work that way. And you like to communicate that to people that, it takes time. And time is a big thing in this game.
Yeah, I think that happens to even me, right? Like I look at Lambie, and Lambie says, "Look, I have an 80% win rate with this deck, and I'll go try it, and I hate it, and I don't want to play it anymore." And that goes to people have play styles, and people have decks that they're comfortable with. People have favorite cards. People know certain lines of certain decks, and they don't know certain lines of other decks. And I think no matter what deck is at the top of the meta, the deck that you'll play with the best is one that you're comfortable with. And that's probably why, no matter how bad they try to make Galactus, I can still throw together a Galactus list and win a couple of games because my brain is wired to think, how can I make Galactus go off when I need him to?
Yeah.
And the same thing with, with the Hela deck that we're about to talk about is people have been saying to me, like, this deck sucks. Like, how are you winning with it? Or while I'm streaming, if Corvus hits Hela, chat is retreat. Like everyone is spamming retreat. Everyone's spamming like get out of here. But there's so many other lines, and I stay in these games because I know other things that I can do. And then I, say, sometimes I lose, but say I win. Chat is like, holy shit, how did you see that line before? And I'm like, guys, as you play the deck over and over and over, you'll be like, okay, if I still have my vision, I can still win this. If I Sandman him, if I Sandman Odin, then he can't do anything, and I have Doom. And you know that you don't need one. And people are like, I hate decks where like you only win if you have the one card. And
right,
I think there are Hela decks like that where if you discard Hela, you're screwed.
Oh yeah.
But I think what's cool about the one that I've been playing is that there's so many alternate lines that if Corv hits Hela, that makes your opponent snap you because they're like, haha, it hit Hela. But you're like, haha, he thinks like I need Hela. Like it's not the end of the world. There's like a lot of back and forth where, you're tricking your opponent into staying.
Yeah, I want to go over that with you because, and perfect example. So I saw your deck and I'm like, man, he's killing it with this deck. Then your deck was Glazer had it on his show, and I'm like, all right, man, I got to go for this, and I'm playing it. So I start playing in Conquest, and man, I'm like, and I played Hela before, so I played Hela list before. I tried Dark Knight Hela. I was playing the one season. I played a lot of the Dracula one, the one with Dracula in there. So and I'm going through, and I'm like, I am not like, dude, I must either suck or I just can't do it. Like I can't. But again, it just goes to show you. But I want you to kind of talk about the lines a little bit, because what's cool is that you have ramp in there that sometimes people just rely on the Cole Corvus thing. And
Yep.
again, when you have that deck, if you don't get Corvus, you're kind of screwed, because you're only going to get a play or two out. Maybe you hit the Jubilee and you get lucky. But other than that, like you're kind of toast if you get toward the end of the game and you don't have Corvus.
Yep.
So how did you figure out how to play the Electro, and where does the Electro sit in the course of the deck?
So the Electro is the deck is really just a ramp deck with Hela in there, like the Hela option in there. So people, the line, like the Exodia line is you have Jeff or you have Vision in a lane, and then you play Corvus there, and then you play Hela there, and then you play, if you accidentally fill, if one of your things pops in there and now you're filled there, at least you have a mover there where you can move them out, and then you drop Odin in there, and because of the play order, Corvus goes off again, and then Hela goes off again, and you get two Helas, and you get all four, big things popping out all over. That happens maybe, half the time. The other time is you dancing around, the options of your opponent and the locations. I think what people don't factor in a lot is how much knowing what locations are good for you. Like there's often times where I see a location that I love pop up turn one, and I snap right away, and I don't need to know what's in my hand. I don't need to know what my opponent's playing. I want to pressure him, knowing that I have one of my favorite locations. I want to pressure him to have to address that. And a lot of times they retreat, or a lot of times they stay in, and it's unwinnable for them because it's a location for me. I think one of those is Sinister London, where all of a sudden you abandon Hela, right? You have Sinister London, you don't need Hela. You're just going to play a bunch of big things into Sinister London, and your big things are all under 10, so they can't be shanged. If you have two visions floating around,
Yep.
and you have a 9-power Red Hulk, but they can't, they're using all their energy, so Red Hulk's not going up until it's too late. They can very rarely outpace you there. And then you're wondering about the Electro. I always, if I have Electro and Corv, I'm always Corving, even if I have Hela in my hand.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing as playing Electro, and you get the added bonus of maybe it won't hit Hela. And if it does hit Hela, I would go for the Jubilee, or I would go for the Vision. A lot of people undervalue Vision because having that flexibility, especially if you're going to Sandman later, is just so powerful. Being able to move Vision around and address what they're about to do, or what they already have on the board. And then one of my favorite lines is Sandmanning on 4, and then Odining the Sandman again, because they think like, oh, they Sandmaned early, I can still get out of this. But then you hit them with the Odin, and then they're like, forget it, I'm out of here. And then having Doom as well. And if you have your Vision floating around, it's just there's so many different paths and so many ways that if they see you discard your Hela and then they snap you, you're not out yet. You can really surprise them at the end.
Yeah, I love that. It's a very different way. And see, so there you go. I'm glad we talked about that, because now you get to hear, that, and I, more than likely listening to you, I'm playing it wrong. I know I am, because I'm thinking, oh damn, there goes my Hela, I'm dead.
Yeah,
and so
that's what a lot of and as a streamer, you have to deal with a lot of backseating, and people see you discard your Hela, and they're like, well, buddy, you better get out of here. And I'm like, hold on, guys, watch this. Like, let me take care of this 1 second.
Yeah.
But really, and the other thing is, Magneto is such a clutch card.
Oh, he's so good.
There's so many decks where their game plan revolves around a 3 or a 4, especially this new Gene list going around. And there's so many times where the gene comes down.
The ongoing deck, I love that
Yeah,
deck.
it's really powerful, and it was my second hardest matchup after Tribunal.
Yep.
But if I could avoid Cosmo and I could fill that lane, and one of those cards was Vision, I was able to really disrupt them with Magneto by pulling their Omega Red off, or
Yep.
sometimes I pulled their own Cosmo into where they could Spectrum, and they tried the Spectrum, and their own Cosmo messed them up, which was really, really funny. But then the other one was Tribunal, and Tribunal, you really have to learn how to bully snap people when you're in your toughest matchup. You really have to force them to have what they need to beat you. And Tribunal is one of those sandcastle decks where they have to have every piece lined up perfectly. And if you notice them fumbling, or if you see them like, they're digging with crystal, or they magic, and then they have Invisible Woman down, and you can Magneto, their 3 costs into Invisible Woman, so they're all, messed up. That really comes into play, and that probably saved me, from a lot of what should have been easy wins for my opponent.
Snapping is so important in this game. It really just is.
Especially in Conquest.
Yeah, you really have to. And I've talked to people that have played like poker that have come into this game, because it's very similar. You really have to be confident in what you have. If you're bad at snapping, it's going to be very, very hard, because you're gonna wait. And I know this is a lot of my issue. I'm very nervous about it, because I'm thinking like, yeah, I think I have this, but I can get beat by this, and I kind of outthink myself a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I call it big braining myself. I big brain myself all the time.
Yeah, but I
give my opponent way too much credit most of the time.
Yeah.
I think they can Arnhem their null here, but what if they do this? What if they do this? What if they okay, they're probably gonna do this, and then this, and then they just Arnhem the null, and I'm like, I should have just
yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's like, and that's what can make a journey so hard, because if you might be winning a cube or two, but that's, by the time you get to it and you're waiting until like turn 4 or turn 5 to do anything, when at that point you've got it locked.
Right.
You got a Professor X lane locked down, and the game is yours. Well, they're going to leave, and you're going to get the 1 cube.
Yep.
So it's a very, very difficult road to climb if you're looking to try to climb ladder.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with Conquest. It's going to be a game that's going to take forever, because you're going to be going 1 cube, 1 cube, 1 cube. They might hit you for a big loss, and then you lost the match. So
yeah, I'm actually I haven't done it in a while, but I used to play poker a lot too, both online and in person, and it is a lot like poker, but at the same time, there's something about Snap where you can't really bluff, because
that's true. Yeah.
There's so much emotion behind the games. Snapping really like gets under people's skin. They take it personally, or when they have 4, when they're in for 4 already, they're like, I don't want to give up 4. I'm just going to stay in. So if most of the time they call your bluff in very bad positions, like they should definitely accept your bluff, because if you do have what you're saying you have, they're down and out. Yep. But my opponent often calls my bluff in terrible, terrible positions, where if this were poker, they would leave in a heartbeat. Yep. On like a call or on something like that. And Snap it's so weird. Yeah, I guess it's because it's not poker players, right? It's just people who want to play with Marvel characters.
Right.
And they don't care about their queue. I watch my wife play sometimes, and she stays in on these these games, and I'm like, no, I'm like, babe, you got to leave. Like, this is
unwinnable games.
But she's like, no, I want to see. And I'm like, oh my God, that's me on the other end. I'm like, all right, there's no way they stay here. I'm just gonna bluff, and it's just my wife on the other end. She's like, nah, let's see, and it just doesn't work, because your opponent, you can never predict if your opponent's going to be like, fuck it. Let me take a look.
That is such a hard, honest thing to get over too. Like I know, I was listening to a video that Lambie had done. I don't even remember who he did the podcast with. I can't remember, and I forget the person's name, but it was really, he's talking about like the emotions of the game, and that you have to almost be like, I think he compared it to Mr. Spock when you're playing. Like you have to have no emotion because you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, and you're getting all excited. You're like, yeah, I can get this. Yeah, I'm losing right now, but I can get this. But he's 100% right. You have to take that out, because if you don't, you're going to get yourself into trouble. You, as a player and someone who's played for a long time, you should know by now the decks. Sure, you're going to get mishmash decks sometimes from time to time that you don't really know what they are. But for the most part, you see the first couple, 2-3 cards, like destroy. Your Deadpool hits the thing.
Sometimes you see one card and you're like,
right,
okay, all right, I'm
yeah,
Loki, and if they have, and you're just already mapping it out through your head.
Yeah. But then, and then you see the first couple cards go down. You're looking at your own hand, and you're seeing, let's say, a hand of 5s and 6s in your hand, and maybe you have one play for the first 3 turns. And meantime, they already have their Maria Hill and their and their Jeff and their this and then. And then you're thinking, but I want to keep playing because I know I'm going to get something, and I know it's. But see, that's the thing.
Don't chase the dragon.
Right. You're like, yep, I know I can still do it. I'm going to pull something that's going to get me out of this mess.
That happens to me a lot, especially we're talking about the Hela deck, where sometimes you have 7, 6 and 5s in your hand. And if I see my opponent hasn't played anything, so the perfect example is if I see my opponent hasn't played anything in 3 turns, I'm snapping him. I'm either making him leave and I'm taking my 1 cube, or there's a chance that he has, nothing or a really bad hand, and I'm going to try to capitalize on that. There's so many times where I'm that guy and my opponent doesn't snap, and I make it all the way to turn 6, or I'm able, on turn 5, I get my or I get my Sandman, or I get my Vision, and my opponent, if my opponent snapped me, I would have left, but my opponent let me dig for my stuff and find my out. And you can't let that happen. You have to make them pay to see their next card is how I look at it. And I think Lambie said something similar to that. But he also said, what was there was something else I wanted. Oh, and someone came into my chat the other day and they asked for, like advice, like how can I get better at the game? And I gave my response, and my chat made fun of me because they're like, "Oh, good advice, dude." But my advice was, don't play. So, Game 5, Infinity Conquest, everything's on the line. You're stressed out of your mind. You got to play it like any other game, because if you play it like Game 5, Infinity Conquest, you're gonna mess up, or you're gonna leave on plays where you wouldn't have, or you're gonna let your opponent get away with something that you otherwise are pretty good at not letting them get away with it. So you got to play it like it's just any other game. And if you lose, you're not going to win every game. If you play your best and your opponent just had it, there's nothing more you could have done. And people have a really hard time accepting that. There's like,
it's true.
And it happens on ladder too, right? Like you might, like in your position, you were 99, you were 2 cubes away from infinite, and you queued into someone who had it, and you had to retreat, or you had to lose that game. But honestly, there was nothing you could have done about it. Like if you played what the game dealt you, then there's nothing you could have done. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, I could have won that one," or if I keep playing, it's coming. But the variance there is just like sometimes the game just doesn't want you to win. I've had hands of those 5s and 6s. And I have Jeff, I have Jubilee, I have Corvus, and I'm like, where the hell are they? Like, I guess the game doesn't want me to win this one, and you gotta just accept that sometimes.
Yeah, we're conditioned to win. We just are. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether it's with a video game that you're playing on a TV screen, whether it's poker or a game like that, we're just conditioned to win. Snap, in a way, makes you condition yourself to lose because you have to be good at that, or you're going to lose worse, which is very, very different. And so, yeah, that 100%.
I would say in the last 2 seasons, Yeah, and especially this past season playing the Hela deck, I have gotten, you know, to put it modestly, exceptionally well at retreating, and I think that's why a lot of people, you know, message me about this deck like, hey, I can't get a win with this, like how are you winning with it? And not only am I winning with it, I had like an 84% win rate with it, so I'm not
Wow.
only winning with it, I'm like, if I queue into you with this deck, you're probably not going to win.
Yep.
And it's just because I just know the deck. I know when to retreat. I know when I see a location. I know when I see an opponent or a deck. If I'm, you know, a lot of times I queued into destroy, and a lot of people are like, nerf destroy, nerf's too strong. I can't believe destroy escaped a nerf again. If I queued into a destroy, it was like a free win. I was like, oh guys, thank God a destroy. Like I got this. And at one point, destroy was my game 5, and I queued into it. I saw him play Deadpool. Turn one, we both have 10 cubes. Turn one, I'm like, oh, thank God, we got it, guys. We got the infinity. Because it was such an easy matchup. I knew it was such an easy win.
Yep.
That I just, you know, like you got to know your matchups. You got to know when to. And I call it bully snapping, but you got to know when you got to make your opponent pay to see the outcome of things, whether it be a draw or whether it be what you're going to do or whether it be the end of the game. Make them pay, like make them pay that extra cube or make them pay the 4 cubes to see it, you know, because a lot of people want to see it. They can't resist it.
That's true.
So if you
Yeah.
make them pay to see it, like you're gonna slowly inch ahead, and then it's gonna be too late for them to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have stayed in on those on those games.
Yep. And that gets you the extra cubes out of it
Yep.
too.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, what would be some advice that you would give someone who is, you know, let's say you're a casual player, right? I'll take myself for example. You maybe play a couple hours a day, right? Um, Now you talked about your deck, right? And getting to know the ins and outs of your deck. So, and you've been playing with this Hela one for a good long time. So obviously you know the deck very well. So, you know, would that be something that you would say is like, hey, listen, get to know your deck, play with the deck enough that you know the ins and outs of winning, and then obviously your bad matchups, like you were talking about with destroy, or good matchups and stuff.
Yeah, and I think another layer of that is there has to be some kind of enjoyment out of it, right? Because
Right.
if you absolutely hate Hela, and Hela's the best deck in the meta, it doesn't matter if you pick it up and learn it and play it. You're gonna hate it the whole time,
Yep.
and that's sort of a layer of blindness to really understanding the deck, right? Because the whole time you're like, even when you win, I've seen people play Hela and win and be like, guess I'm if you can't beat them, join them, or if
Yeah.
you, I guess I'm a Hela player now, and that level of like disdain or like self-loathing almost is like almost putting a barrier between them and really getting into the deck. So like if the only deck you like is destroy, and I think I can beat you with with my unbeatable deck, you are the destroy player, right? Like maybe you are gonna get me. Like maybe I can't keep up with your lines, or you're gonna know, hey, I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna Arnhem my null here, but then you know, like fake me out, like you know the deck, like you can beat me. And it's because you enjoy your deck, you know, like it's your deck, right? If this is my Hella deck, bring your best, you know, against me, and you might win, you know, like you might, you know, have the lines or understand your deck better, or that. And I feel like that's why I beat like Tribunal. Like Tribunal, I shouldn't beat Tribunal. Like Tribunal should like shit all over me and just do their thing. I have no tech cards, I can't do anything about it. But one of my final bosses was Tribunal. You know, I beat a bunch of Tribunals on my way to a border, and it was just because I was able to like dance around them better than they were at building their thing. So I think at the end of the day, find a good deck, but it has to be a deck that you're comfortable with and that you like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, I often talk about decks that, and I have like 2 or 3 decks I just can't stand, and I would never play. Destroy is one of them. I would never look. I know a lot of people love it. To me, it bores me to death because it's like, okay, Deadpool here, Carnage here, X-23 here, and it's just, to me, it's like the same thing over and over and over. I'm
Yeah.
like, I get no fun out of playing that. And I played a Tribunal deck for a little while too. They work really well if you get that combo off. In fact, I think I took that on an infinite border run, and it worked really well. I got to the 5th game. You were talking about I got to the last game of the last round, and my Iron Man, which I needed to win, was the last card in my deck that I never drew. And I'm like, oh, but that's what you're getting about. Sometimes you're just not going to win. It's just what it is. But yeah, the fact that you need to look, ultimately, this is a game where you're playing because you're having fun doing it. That's what it comes down to. Part of that is the decks that you play. And that's why, I've loved Galactus for the longest time. I just liked it. I liked the ramp style decks where you would play the Nebula on 1, the Jeff on 2, the Electro on 3, the Wave, if you don't get that, on 4, get Galactus out and then play your Eliath. I enjoyed that. It was, and I was good at it. And that's the thing. You're right, 100%. That's great advice. You have to play with something that you're going to like, because regardless of, like Intero said, you can pick up the best deck in the game. You can pick it up. You can say, okay, right now it's Hela. Like you were saying, I'm playing Hela. You're not going to be good at it because, number one, you probably don't like it. Number two, you probably don't know the way that it's supposed to be played. And you're not going to find yourself enjoying the game as much. I agree.
That deck for me at the height of his popularity was Thanos. I hated Thanos.
Yep.
And if you weren't, there was 2 seasons ago, if you weren't playing Thanos, you weren't winning.
Yep.
So picture me sitting there trying to fight all the Thanoses, and I just don't want to play. I don't want to play it. I hate it. I don't. It's my destroy. I don't find it interesting. I don't like churning out the stones and digging for it every game.
Yeah.
If you don't hit your stones, you're sitting there and you're like, where, I have 6 1 costs in my deck. Where the hell are they? It just wasn't fun for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the height of his power, you should play Thanos. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And I hate
it. Oh man, I love it. Well, we've gone over. I don't want to keep you very much longer, but I just want to ask you just one more thing, really. What do you want to see in the future of this game? I mean, we've talked about the monetary stuff. We talked about all of that and everything like that. But as far as just, I don't know, gameplay, overall, like cards, other than a Galactus buff, we want to see that. People should know that by now. So, yes. But yeah, like what in the next 5 months, what is something you really want to see to be able to get excited about Marvel Snap and something that's going to be like, yeah, man, I love this. I think this is fantastic. We're getting some cool things, it looks like, in the future. I mean, RSM's coming. I think that's going to be fun as hell. Yeah. It's a goofy card, but I think basically it's draft mode for Marvel Snap. And I think that's going to be fun. Like, people like yourself, you can have a stream one day and say, hey, guys, we're doing RSM today.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to play with a whole bunch of goofy cards, and this is how I'm going to do it. So what do you want to see in the future of the game?
Yeah, and it's funny you brought up Arsham. That's exactly where I was going to go with it. I think I really like when the devs find interesting new abilities to explore in Snap. Less. I would like to see less Red Hulks and more Arshams. And if you're going to make a card like Nocturne, I touched on it before. Make her a little different. Make her change the location she's coming from instead of the one she's going through. I want them to push the boundaries a little bit. They have like these parameters that they play within, right? Where there's not as much agency as, like, say, Hearthstone, where like there's like layers of card interaction where you play a card and you can point to another card, or you can discover a card. So they have to get really crafty and really interesting with new, making things feel new and exploring those realms. So I want to see them push those boundaries and keep adding new stuff like that. Arsham is a great example of that, where they add a lot of cards where they're just like iterations of other things, and Arsham is like a brand new thing. So keep adding brand new things, and I think everything will fall into place.
We're seeing some stuff here. I
Yeah.
mean, we're getting a card now that's going to have arrows. So we don't know what they're going to do. You can kind of guess, right? Like acid arrow is probably going to be like, it's going to be negative on something or it, and stuff. This will probably move the card or something along those lines. So that's kind of cool. We're seeing drain coming up as a mechanic, which they didn't describe with Cassandra Nova. You would assume, I mean, from playing other card games, that drain would mean she gets that power.
Right.
So that's something different. So, and with Zemo, we saw Mill, right? So we are getting different things. And I think that's important to go forward with that. Like you said, you see iterations of cards being done over in the same way. And you brought up Nocturne, and because it's essentially Nightcrawler, it's essentially like Jeff, it's essentially like Scarlet Witch. So different mechanics, different things that they can play with, like stuff like this, is what's going to keep the game going.
And I'll just quickly doorknob you by saying modes. I think there needs to be stuff to do. Right now it's ladder or conquest, and I'm really sad to say that I personally, as a conquest player, I feel like they've let conquest wither away and
Agree
die a little bit. I would really like them to go look at it and refresh it and do some stuff to it. But if they're not going to, then what else can we do in your app? I would like to do more stuff than just play ladder or conquest.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's time. They've been around a while, and you have to get. I know people have been clamoring for an official draft mode. I don't know that they can do that. I would like to see it. I like draft stuff, but the card collection isn't huge like Magic has, where you can do a draft from like 500 cards or something like that, and everybody can get something different. They don't have that. So I don't know, but I agree. I think that, and I'm not saying even a year down the road. I think that has to come relatively soon. So I think that we've seen all that stuff on the roadmap, and I think it has to come out really soon. So
agreed.
Man, thank you so much for coming out. I had an amazing time talking to you. I love the discussion. We got into a little bit of everything here tonight, but yeah, it's fantastic, man. Have you ever played in like any of the tournaments or anything that have been going on?
I was just in the Snap Team League. It was something Felicity
did. Yeah. Okay.
It was really, really fun. I don't, a lot of people ask me. Glazer asked me to join the
Snap Judgments.
There was another one floating around, but I really honestly don't have time for these like tournaments that last like 2 days.
Yeah.
My wife would like kill me if I spend any more time on Marvel Snap. I too much already. So I would like to join them, but and maybe one day I'll have the time to do it. But at the moment, it is pretty hard to get away to do those long tournaments.
Yeah.
Snap Judgments. The Snap Team League with Felicity in them was super fun because it was like you have one match, you win or lose, and then you report your win, and it was done.
I'm supposed to have her on the show, actually. Yeah, I had heard her talking on some other shows, and I was contacting her about coming on. I'm going to talk to her. I want to talk to her about that. The Snap Judgments League that they do now is actually kind of similar to that.
Yeah,
so
I heard.
Yeah, I've been in that one. That's kind of cool. You just reach out to another player and you schedule your match, and it's literally one match a week. So it's really not bad. Like for me, I work retail, so I have weird hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we scheduled it at like 9:30 or something on a night when I'm off and they're off and stuff like that. And so that's not so bad. The other one that they had was a weekend tournament. And I'm like, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah,
like,
I
can't do it. They were hard for me to do when I was playing Magic back in the 90s. We would go and we'd sit in some hotel somewhere, and we're playing all day. You're there from like 9 o'clock in the morning until almost 10 o'clock at night. Many times you're out in the first like 3 rounds, and then you're just sitting waiting for your friends to play. And it's like, I can't do that anymore. Man, so yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, it's been great chatting with you. Tell my listeners where they can find you, man.
My main stomping ground is Twitter. Please follow me on Twitter, Interrobang with an E on the end because I can't get my real name yet. And then the same thing on Twitch. I stream every day, midnight EST. I never very very rarely miss a day. Interrobang with an E on the end.
Yeah, and you could see, well, obviously I messed it up there. It's not on the.
Well, that's my real name. You got it right.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
I
Nice.
had to add an E because there are other Interrobangs floating around.
Oh man, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, make sure you to go check it out. I have a blast just like posting stuff with Intero and stuff like that. It's great stuff. And man, listen, if you do that Galactus League, man, you know where you know who to call.
Yeah,
I'm in for
in.
sure.
Your grandfather did.
Awesome, man. All right, guys. Well, listen, that's going to do it for this episode of Snap Decisions. Make sure to check out if you're gonna watch on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like the video. That helps out tremendously. Also, make sure that if you're gonna listen on audio, grade the podcast if you will. You can do that on Spotify. You can do that on Apple. Also, leave me some comments as to maybe who you would like to see in a future episode as well. So that's going to be it for me. Check this out along with the video that I did with Lauren yesterday. And of course, I will be back next week with 2 new guests as well. So that's going to do it, guys. This is your host with the most, your Snap DJ, signing off for the night. Guys, please stay safe. Be kind to one another. And hopefully, I'll see you all for the next one. Good night, all.